Hello you lovely lot, my name is Max, welcome back to my YouTube channel and another Nottingham Forest Scout Report, where today we are discussing quite a heavily rumoured move for Newcastle forward Chris Wood. The New Zealander is very heavily rumoured to be arriving on Trentside in the next couple of days with a loan with an option to buy deal on the table from Newcastle. And in today's video we are going to be discussing his background as a player, all his kind of stats and breaking down his analytics, and also talking about how he would actually play in this Forest team hypothetically if he were to sign. So if you do enjoy this kind of stuff, don't forget to drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you don't miss a single video. With that being said, let's start talking about Chris Wood. Chris Wood was born in Auckland, New Zealand in 1991 and would spend the majority of his youth career with sides Cambridge FC and Hamilton Wanderers before getting his big break and move to Europe with a move to West Brom on trial. And he would eventually sign for the Midlands outfit on a permanent deal, but most of his career at West Brom would be spent out on loan, linking up with the likes of Barnsley, Brighton, Birmingham, Bristol, Millwall and Leicester, eventually signing for the latter on a permanent deal in 2013, netting 12 goals over a 2-year stint in the East Midlands. However, a more prolific period of his career would follow, netting 41 goals across a few seasons for Leeds United before moving to the Premier League with Burnley, where he would establish himself as one of the more consistent goal scorers in the Premier League, netting around 50 goals over 5 seasons in North West England. In fact, over this stint, he was probably Burnley's best player, certainly one of the most valuable assets at Turf Moor, and that would be why when he would eventually leave the club to join Newcastle United last January, it would pretty much be the death knell in any form of survival hopes for Burnley last season, as they would slide out the Premier League as Newcastle would sort of climb their way up the table during the second half of the season, with Chris Wood playing a fairly decent role in that, being the second choice striker to Callum Wilson throughout the campaign. So with all that being considered, I think now's probably a good time to move into the stats section of this video, start talking about what Chris Wood actually offers to potential suitors for his signature. Now, on the surface of things, it may not seem that impressive. Wood has scored just twice this season for Newcastle, as he's pretty much been the third choice forward at the Toon, with Callum Wilson and Alexander Isak being probably higher in the pecking order than the New Zealander. However, his stint with Burnley over the course of that 5-year period would be probably the most fruitful and consistent with his footballing career, averaging around 2 shots per 90 minutes, which is pretty impressive for a team that spent most of their time on the back foot, and averaging around 0.4 expected goals per 90 minutes over the course of that 5-year stint. As I mentioned earlier, he pretty much became one of the most consistent goal scorers outside the Big Six in the Premier League over the course of that period. And he really suited that style. When you look at things like aerial duels won, he was one of the best strikers in Europe in terms of winning the ball in the air. He is a massive unit of a striker, someone who can stick up front and pretty much consistently rely on to win headers and win duels in the air. Unfortunately though, what you see with him is very much what you get. Yeah, that really is the problem with Wood. You don't really get too much beyond his ability to win balls in the air and score goals. He's not going to create a huge amount of chances for you. He's not going to drop deep and progress play and be a modern forward. He very much is the old-fashioned 2-up-top kind of striker who's going to win headers, knock it down for his striking partner and get you goals in the air. He is decent defensively though. He does offer you obviously that coverage from set pieces, being someone so strong in the air and his ability to clear out from the box defensively from set pieces. But really it is what you see, what you get. You're not getting too much beyond the sort of general skill set from Chris Wood. And for Burnley, this worked. For the last 2 seasons of their Premier League stint, they were 4th and 5th respectively for attempted crosses per 90 minutes. They very much were one of the cross-heavy teams in the Premier League, so it made sense having someone who, whilst limited as a footballer, was a huge asset in terms of his ability in the air. For Forest, it's not the same. We are the 5th least crossing team in the Premier League this season. Crossing really isn't a huge part of our game this season. We're very direct with our running. We're not necessarily looking to get the ball in from wide areas, and that could maybe not play to his strengths too well, but it could also add an extra dimension. Yeah, like I said, I think he could add that extra dimension to our attack. I think he's somebody who obviously has a very specific set of skills in a very Liam Neeson kind of way, but those set of skills are very different to any of the kinds of forwards that we have at the club at the moment, and that could potentially offer us extra dimensions in attack, the ability to shut games down by using him as an ability to hold play up and slow things down, or when you're in a game late on, you need a goal to get an equaliser, maybe get the 3 points. He's the kind of forward you want to bring on if you're going to be spamming crosses, looking for free kicks, that kind of stuff. He's your perfect kind of forward. So we're now in the tactics section. As you can see on the board, we've got what looked pretty much like what Burnley were playing over the course of Chris Wood's stint at the club. I think this is probably the best way in which we can gauge his qualities because he hasn't played a huge amount of football for Newcastle since joining. Very much a 4-4-2, very much Sean Dyche football. We all know how Burnley play. I'm not going to bore you to death on what they do. I'm going to mainly be focusing this section on his role in the team rather than Burnley as a whole. So of course Burnley, the 4-4-2, Chris Wood very much able to get into the box for crosses, very good at receiving balls into the box from wide areas from both sides. He's also very useful when you're building up when your team like Burnley. Burnley obviously sit back into a mid-low block defensively, lots of compactness in that defensive section, and whilst he could join in definitely defensively, obviously like we say from set pieces, corners, very good in the air, his ability to clear, but he was the guy who were kind of like looking for as the focal point out from the back, someone who you could lump the ball up to and reliably expect to hold on to play and bring other forwards into play as the team breaks out from their defensive shape. So we now move into how Nottingham Forest are playing at the moment and how Chris Wood's arrival would maybe change things, impact things. And this is the sort of side that we're looking at the moment. It's kind of a 4-4-2 diamond, 4-3-1-2. The numbers really don't mean very much. 4 at the back, 3 in the midfield, and number 10 behind split strikers. That's how we've played pretty consistently over the last sort of 6 or 7 weeks building up to the World Cup. It's really started to deliver results in recent week. The move to the 3 in the midfield has really helped. And of course, Chris Wood will be playing in one of these 2 central striking positions, or split striker positions, I suppose, as has been the tendency under Steve Cooper so far. And that's really where the issue finds itself. He's not a natural fit for that kind of role. Taiwo and Brennan work so well because of their ability to get off the shoulder of their last man, their clever movement, their explosive running, and their ability to find those pockets of space to run into behind the back line. You don't get that from Chris Wood. As I've mentioned, what you see is what you get. He is a very old-fashioned traditional number 9 who wants the ball either into feet to help link up play or into the box where he can attack it with his really good aerial dominance. And that's not how we're playing at the moment, but I'm not necessarily saying that that's something we could shift to. Forest are definitely a team who, you know, in certain games we will need to dig back and we will need someone who we can sort of lump the ball up to. Definitely games like Manchester City, Arsenal, games coming up where we're not going to see a lot of the ball and it's going to be very heavily reliant on our ability to transition from back to front very quickly, something we're very reliant on under Steve Cooper. And Chris Wood could be that guy. He could be that guy who can hold up play, bring others into play, drop into deeper positions. It might allow Morgan Gibbs-White to get into more advanced positions. Gustavo Scarpa, very much the same. Obviously allowing Brennan to peel into those wider areas, into the channels where he's been so successful in the last few games. It could see him playing a bit more of a traditional striker role, maybe in like a 4-3-3 or something like that, where he's the one dropping deep, linking up play, being limited in his game, but doing the best he can, whilst having our more technical and pacey forwards using the space he vacates by drawing in defenders to run in and create chances. He isn't the most like-for-like change for Taiwo. I completely appreciate that. He's a bit unconventional in terms of our approach, but I think we could do worse, and I think that he would be a good short-term option until the end of the season, or even just for the month or so that Taiwo is going to be out for if we need to change things up. Like I said earlier, get a goal off the bench, hold on to play late in a game. I think he could be that kind of player. So in terms of grade, I'm going to go for a C+ for Chris Wood. Now, I've waxed lyrical for a lot of this video, talking about the qualities that he has, his ability in the air, his ability to link play, all that kind of stuff. But I don't think he's the natural fit for this team, and I think that considering some of the other forwards that we're linked to at the moment, Duvan Zapata from Atalanta, Onat Danjuma, there's a video coming out hopefully in the next couple of days about him from Villarreal, I think they're more natural fits for that position, whilst also offering the goal scoring record. Zapata's got a great goal record for Atalanta. Danjuma's is actually quite good for Villarreal as well, whereas over the last 12 months Wood has really slowed down. He's not taking as many shots, he's not getting as many goals, his XG has sort of dropped off a cliff in the last 12 months, and so I don't think he's necessarily the most natural fit or the kind of person I would personally be bringing in. I don't think I'd complain though. I think in terms of wages, I don't imagine he'd be taking up too much wages, and we do need some depth in the front line with the injuries to the likes of Taiwo. So I'm going to give it a C+, like I say, and hopefully he can add something to this team whilst not being the focal point and the main striker in this team, because I think some of our other targets are a little bit more exciting. Of course, though, let me know what you think of Chris Wood in that comment section down below. Apologies if I rambled quite a lot. I think it's quite hard to get across how I feel about Chris Wood. I really like him as a player. I think he's an attractive prospect for some teams, just maybe not for Forest, a team who play in the way that we do. But yeah, again, like I say, answers in the comment section down below. I'm really curious to see how you guys feel about this one. Of course, whilst you're down there as well, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss these scout reports or the match previews coming to you with the Bournemouth game at the weekend. And with that being said, thank you very much for watching. I will catch you later.